Years back, I hired a bookkeeper, okay? And I think she told me she was 17 bucks an hour. So I put her in charge of payments. I put her in charge of the bookkeeping component, pretty much everything. And then I just turned a blind eye for a few years to what she was doing. I wasn't even getting P&Ls, and I didn't care. I was just focused on, writing and video sales letters and conversions, etc. So fast forward several years, I am now in an IRS audit. They're coming after me for 7 figures. I find out that this bookkeeper wasn't charging me 17 bucks an hour. She was charging me 50 bucks an hour for all these years, and all sorts of other problems, like things that were supposed to get filed that didn't get filed, miscategorized deductions, you name it. On the exterior, that failure, at least when I first thought of it, I thought that the failure was obviously I made a big hiring mistake. I hired the wrong person. I didn't do my due diligence. That was sort of the external layer of the failure. But upon some deeper reflection, I realized that the failure was again much deeper. So the next layer of failure, the next realization that I had was, well, not only did I hire the wrong person, but then I didn't monitor her performance. I didn't get people to kind of look at what she was doing that knew more about finance than I did. And I allowed a black box in my business, right? And a black box in your business is death. So then, upon even deeper reflection and asking myself some difficult questions, right? Like, for example, well, I failed by doing X, which means I really failed by doing Y. That's a bit of a probing question, right? That allows you to kind of penetrate a layer deeper to the true reason for the failure. And I think that's really the big lesson. Because I could sit here right now, guys, and I could tell you like, oh, well, you've got to embrace failure, and you've got to fail fast, and you've got to learn from your failures and optimize from your failures. That's all cliche stuff. You can listen to any Tony Robbins, Joe Schmo talk about that. What I'm going to tell you is, how can you optimize? How can you pivot? How can you improve? How can you learn from a failure if you don't understand the real reason that you failed? And more often than not, you don't know the real reason that you failed. And one thing I've learned is the bigger the failure, the more painful that failure, the more your subconscious conceals it from you. Right? You have to protect your ego. You have to protect your psyche. So you tell yourself one reason that you failed. 9 times out of 10, the real reason you failed, you don't know it. You're not aware of it. It's deeper. So you have to ask yourself these probing, oftentimes painful questions. Like, hey, I failed at X, which means I really failed at Y. And if I really failed at Y, then I really failed at Z. That's a framework. That's a structure that you can use to help get underneath the surface. And another question you can ask, another probing question, copyright Julian Reyes, is if this failure that I just went through happened to a competitor of mine and I were a fly on the wall watching the whole thing transpire, how would they have failed? How would I view their failure, right? Sometimes if you kind of take it and put the spotlight on someone else, it allows you to be a little bit more objective. So that's it. I'm going to cut this video off. It's a little too long already. That's it. Julian Reyes, ExodusAffiliates.com if you want to check out some of our offers. They're crushing it. And stay safe, everybody.